Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the PlanPlus Online new user webinar. My name is Eric, and I will be running this webinar for us today. There are a few people who have registered who have not quite joined us yet, so we're just going to give them a minute or two to join in, and then we will go ahead and get started. In the meantime, if you guys could indicate here either with the raise hand function or just type into the question box and let me know that you can indeed hear me. Great, looks like my audio is working. Now, if you could do the same thing, let me know that you can see my screen. You should be seeing a slide that displays the webinar controls. Great, looks like that's working as well. So during the course of the webinar, I am going to leave everyone's microphones muted. But if you do have any questions, please just type those into the question box and I'll do my best to get those answered for us. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in here today. So today is going to be the new user webinar. So we're going to be talking about a lot of just kind of the basic day-to-day usage of the platform. Today we're going to focus on the features that are available within the Essentials editions. I will briefly mention some of the features that are available in the business edition, but I'm not really going to go into much detail about those. But if you do have any questions about some of those more advanced features, please feel free to let me know and we can set up a time and I can answer some of those questions outside of this webinar. But today we're going to be focusing primarily here on the basic features as far as task management, calendaring, notes, and contacts. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start with a little bit of housekeeping and go over just a few general pieces of setting and setup when we're first getting started on the account. So the first thing I want to do is come up here to the settings gears up at the top right, and then just go ahead and go into your preferences. Now this first preferences page just contains some pretty basic information for us. It has, our email, username, password, things of that nature. We don't really need to make any changes or adjustments here, but if you did want to make any changes to your password or email, you would just do that on this page here. Now there are going to be some settings that we want to address in this calendar task section here on the left-hand side. So we'll go to calendar task. And these first settings here refer to our calendar. So you have your time zone. It should default to be whatever time zone is listed on your computer when you signed up for your account. But if it's not, you can go ahead and just choose whatever time zone is going to be appropriate for you. We have all the different time zones just in this drop down here, so you can just choose your time zone. Next, we have the hour range, and this is your quote unquote working hours. So your calendar is still going to display all the hours of the day. This is just kind of what you designate as your working hours. Then we have the default view for our calendar. So that's anytime you come into the calendar tab here or into the home page, what this default view is going to be. So whether that's a 7-day, which normally runs Sunday through Saturday, 5-day, which is Monday through Friday, you can have a daily view or the monthly view. If you choose either the 5 or 7-day calendar, you do have the ability to change the first day of the week. And then you have your display mode, so whether that's a 12-hour or 24-hour display, so 12 hours AM and PM and 24 hours not. All right, next we're going to have some task notifications here. So these task settings primarily refer to a multi-user account. A lot of people will use PlanPlus Online for work or business purposes, and they will have multiple users on the account for delegation or collaboration. And that's kind of what these settings here refer to. So if you do have multiple users on the account and you're delegating tasks to other users, we have some settings here where you can choose if they receive an email notification or not when you delegate a task to them, whether it's going to show that task or only just open tasks, whether it's going to show those delegated tasks. And then I have some similar settings here for project tasks. Now, projects is a little bit more advanced of a feature. It's not going to be available on all of the editions. This is mainly just available in the business edition. So if you don't have projects, you don't really have to worry about these settings. If you do have projects, then these are basically the same settings, just referring to your project tasks as well. So when you're delegating project tasks, whether it's going to email those people and notify them. Okay, next we have some reminders and reports here. So this first one, your appointment and task reminders, these are going to be for individual appointments or a task. So you can set up reminders for either one of those, and I will show you how to do that when we talk more in depth about both appointment and tasks. But this is basically how you're going to receive that reminder. So you could have it an application alert, which means it just pops up here within your PlanPlus. You could have it sent to your email, or you could do both. So that's just kind of up to you. You can choose that there. Then we have some automated reports here. So this first report, this is going to be our weekly productivity report. And what this report is it will send you a copy of actions that have been taken within your account for the last week. So it just kind of gives you a running number of things that have happened. So it will show you like how many tasks were created, how many tasks were completed, how many appointments were created, how many notes were created. It just kind of gives you a running number on those items. It won't tell you specifically what each one of those things are. It just kind of tells you the number and how many of those things happened. All right, next we have our daily agenda. And this report is basically just a copy of everything that you have on your calendar for that day. And then you can have this sent to you every day or just on the weekdays. Most people usually have it sent to them sometime in the morning. And you can have it emailed to you. You could also have this texted to you. If you want this texted to you, it does require a little bit of setup. So we check the mobile phone box here, and then we click on Setup Phone. And then we choose our mobile provider. We have, most of the major carriers listed here. If you don't see yours, you can just hit Other. But let's say I've got Verizon, for example, then I'll just enter in my phone number. And it's going to autofill this email address. So what the system will actually do is it sends an email to your mobile carrier, and then they take that and convert it into an SMS text message. This is email to text. So that's why it autofills this specific email address here. If you don't see your mobile provider in that dropdown, almost every mobile provider has some form of email to text. You can usually just Google it. So if you're, an international customer, or if you don't see your mobile carrier here in this dropdown, just Google your mobile carrier email to text, and you should be able to get the domain. Typically, it's almost always, phone number at, some domain. You just need to find that domain. So that's how we'll set up texting. If you want it, text it to you. And then we have another report for your prioritized tasks. So this is basically the same thing as your daily agenda. It's a report that you can have sent to you, usually like I said, sometime in the morning, and it will contain all of your tasks for that day. As long as the task has a priority. So if it's A, B, or C prioritized, it will be included in that report. If it does not have a priority, it will not be included. All right, so after we've set all of that up, make sure you hit the save button up here at the top right to save any of those changes that you've made. Once we've done all that, there's another section I want to take a look at really briefly here, and that's going to be this setup wizard section on the left-hand side. So this is a pretty useful page. It's got like a little video here that goes over the home page. I will talk about that in just a moment. It allows you to manage your users if, like I said, you're in a multi-user account. It's got links to some of those other pages that we were looking at as far as your preferences and things like that. And then it has a section for add-ons. And this is where we can set up some of these different connectors or add-ons. So this is where we can set up those different sync connectors. So let me just speak on that briefly here. So PlanPlus Online does have the ability to sync data. It's primarily going to sync your contacts, your calendar, and your tasks. Now, the main things that it will sync to would be like an Outlook account or a Google account. And this is where you would set up those different sync connectors. I'm not really going to go too much into sync today because we do have a whole webinar that is dedicated to sync. That is going to be tomorrow at 11 a.m. Mountain Time. So if you want to learn more about syncing your information, I would attend that webinar. We have a plugin for Google Chrome. So if you use Chrome as your web browser, you can get the extension here if you'd like. And then we also have this auto login link. So this auto login link will allow you to put an icon on your desktop that you can just click into, and it will automatically log you into your account. So it makes it a little bit easier to get in without always having to put in, all of your account credentials. How to set that up is we just click on this button here, this PlanPlus Online Auto Login. It's going to open up a new tab, and now what I want to do is I just take this link right here, and I just want to drag that onto my desktop. So I'm going to, minimize down my screen so I can still see it, and then I can see my desktop in the background, and then I just go ahead and grab this and drag it on over to my desktop. And it will create that icon for me that I can just click into, and it will automatically log me in. So that's how you can set that up. Okay, so that pretty much covers some of the housekeeping that I wanted to go over. Now let's jump into talking about actual usage of the platform. So we're going to start here with the P. This is our productivity homepage. And this is probably where you're going to be spending most of your time in the account. So the layout of this page here, I've got my calendar on the right-hand side. This is where I'm going to be managing my time. I can change what view I'm looking at up here at the top right. So I could switch this to a single day view, just look at today. I can look at a weekly view or a monthly view. One thing to kind of bear in mind here is on the monthly view, if you have a lot of appointments every single day, it can get a little bit crowded and hard to see what's going on. So I usually recommend either the daily or the weekly view. I personally like the weekly view, but that's up to you guys. So I can just change my view in that little drop down right there. Over here in the center, well, actually, let me keep talking about the calendar. So that's where I can kind of change my view. I can switch between whatever weeks I'm looking at. So, right now it shows me whatever the current week is, and I can just use these little arrows here. So if I wanted to look at my next week's calendar, I could just kind of arrow over. I can click on this little dot to bring me back to today. Here in the center here, this is going to be my task list. This is kind of where I'm managing, my actions. And then on the left-hand side is going to be a control panel for what I'm viewing within my task list. So the first thing here is I have this little miniature calendar that allows me to navigate between different days and see what I have scheduled for that day. So if I wanted to say, for example, take a look at Friday and see, what tasks I have for Friday, I can just click on that date and it shows me my task list for Friday. And this is also one of the ways I can add tasks to other days as well. So I can just click on whatever day I want and I can add a task. So maybe I'm, I need to get my oil changed. So I can just add that and it will, add it on to Friday. Once again, I can click on this little dot here for today, and it's going to bring me back to, whatever the current day is. And then I have my lists down here. This is a way that I can group my tasks together and basically filter by these lists. I believe the defaults for these lists are just personal and professional, but you can add as many lists as you would like. How to do that is you just click on this little plus sign to the right of list, and then I go ahead and type in the name of that list. Once I have a list, I can associate tasks to it. I'll show you that in just a moment here. And then I can basically use these as filters. So I can filter out my task list based on those lists that I'd created. I have a similar thing with projects. I could filter my daily tasks by projects. Like I said, not everyone is going to have projects. So if you don't, you shouldn't see that and don't really need to worry about it. But if you do, you can filter by that. And then I have my roles and my goals. And so this is a way I can filter by role or by goal. Now your roles and your goals, those are items that I set up here in my planning section. I'm not going to talk about the planning section too much today because there is a whole webinar that was dedicated to that. That webinar was actually yesterday, but all of the webinars are recorded. So if you were unable to attend that webinar, just let me know, give me your email address, and I can just go ahead and send you over a copy of that webinar. So I set up my roles and goals in the planning section. I kind of, plan out those different goal steps. And then on the homepage here, I can just, use those as filters. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about my task list. So we have my task list, and it's going to default to show us our daily tasks or our tasks that we have scheduled for today. We can also have unscheduled tasks, and those are going to be tasks that do not have a specific due date associated with them. So these are tasks that, maybe you want to get to at some point in time, but you don't really need to do it right now. This is a great place to kind of brain dump, so you get things out of your head into the platform. That way you're not going to forget about it, but you don't necessarily need to do them right now. So all of these tasks here, this is just a big list of things that are unscheduled. And I can switch between unscheduled and today just right up here at the top. So your daily tasks, these are going to be all the tasks that you need to do on any given day. So this is going to be everything you need to do for, for business as well as personal. So you want to include all of your tasks, but then if you wanted to filter by, personal or professional, you can do so. But you want to see all of your tasks so you know what you need to do for that day. To add a task, it's going to be very simple. You just click on add task right here, and then I can go ahead and type in whatever that task happens to be. So let's say I'm going to review 2021 Q4. Let's say, that's something I have to do. I have to look into, go over the numbers from last year. So I just go ahead and add that as a task. Now that task is on my task list here. You'll notice to the left of my task, you'll see a couple of these little lines or hash marks. So the one on the far left, this is going to be my status. So here's where I can mark the task as completed. I could forward this to a date into the future. I can delete this item. I can delegate this if I'm in a multi-user account, or I can mark it off as in progress, something that you're working on. The line next to that's going to be my priority. So I can quickly mark something as an A, B, or C priority. And when I change its priority, it's automatically going to move it in my task list for me. Now, there's a few other things that I can do with this task. So if I wanted to click on it, that's going to open up my task details page. So this page is going to give me more information about this specific task. So I have, what the task is, what my status is, the priorities there, and then I have these details here. So this is just a little bit more information about this task. This is who it's assigned to. So I can see that it's assigned to me, but if I wanted to delegate this to another user, I just click on their name and then type in their username. I've got my due dates. I've got whether this is repeating. So, maybe this is something that repeats every week. So I choose weekly. Then I can click on details and then just kind of set up the recurrence. So this is the cadence. I want this to repeat every week, every other week, every third week. I can just change that there. Choose the days I want it to repeat, and then the number of occurrences. Now we do cap the number of occurrences at 365. The reason that we do that is because if things repeat for infinity, that can cause some issues. So we do cap that at 365. So that's just kind of something to keep in mind. Here's one of the ways I can add it to these different lists. So let's say, okay, this is professional. I can add a reminder here. So I can say, okay, remind me to do this task, and then I just choose a date and time of that reminder. Honestly, I don't really recommend utilizing reminders for your task list because my list itself should kind of serve as a reminder, right? I should just be able to take a look at my task list and look at my priorities and know what I need to do. I definitely recommend utilizing reminders much more so for your appointments to make sure you're not going to miss anything. And then I've got this details section where here I can, just jot down notes that I may want to reference back to later. So I can say, look over the numbers. Just kind of go ahead and add those things there. And then I have a couple of these tabs. So I've got subtasks, so I can add one level of subtask to this item. So I could say, compare to, if I could type, compare to fiscal year 2020. So I could add that as a subtask, and then once again, I'll put like look at the numbers. So I can add, a couple subtasks to this task. Now for our subtasks, these are both dependent on the parent task. So I could mark both of these things as completed, but the main task is still going to be there. However, if I complete this parent task, it's automatically going to complete the subtasks. I've got this related tab. So this related tab is how I can connect this to other sections of the platform. So I could, for example, add this to a contact or add it into one of my goals or something like that. I will show you more how that works in a little bit when we talk more about contacts. That's kind of the most commonly used thing to relate to is to a contact. So I can just find a contact and connect it to that individual. And then there's another notes section here. Honestly, I prefer using this detail section because then I don't have to click on anything else, but just another area that you can write notes. Once you've done all that, make sure to hit this blue floppy disk save button if you want to save those changes. If you don't want to save it, you can click on this close without saving, this little arrow to close the drawer. Okay, so now that I've done that, I can see here where it says 0 out of 2. That is talking about my subtasks. Open those up or close those and complete those, what have you. It shows me what list it's associated with. And then I can also drag and drop this task to a number of different places. So one of the things I can do is I can drag and drop to change the priority just within my list here. Now the system is a little bit specific about where you click to drag and drop. You'll notice on the right-hand side, there's these like 3 little lines. Well, when I put my cursor over these lines, then I can, you'll see these 4 directional arrows. Once you see those 4 directional arrows there, that's where you can drag and drop. So I can move it up and down to change its priority. I could grab it and drag it over to one of my lists. I could drag it over to my calendar over here to time block time out for it. So this is saying, okay, so at 10 o'clock, right after the webinar here, I'm going to be looking at some of these numbers. Anytime you drag something to your calendar, it's going to default to create it in a 1-hour time block, but I can adjust that with this little line right here. So maybe this is going to take me a couple hours to do. So I can say, okay, so from 10 o'clock till noon, I'm going to be working on reviewing, quarter 4. I'm not going to be distracted by other things. This is what I'm going to be working on. I have it blocked out on my calendar. It's going to remain on my task list, so once I get it completed, I can then mark it off as completed. I did have a question come in asking, does it alert you that there is a note? So if you come in here and put in notes, either in the details or in this notes section, go ahead and add in a note there. So I add those notes. It does not notify you that a note is associated to this. You would just either have to click into it and check to see if there's a note, or you could add something in, you could put something in like the name of it. So I could, say see notes. So I would know that, okay, there's a note here, but no, the system does not like have a symbol for if there's a note connected to it. So as you're going through and getting your tasks completed, when you mark something as completed, a little line through it, drops it down here to the bottom of my task list, and it automatically reorganizes my my priorities. So here, when I complete this A2, that's going to move my A3 up to what my A2 was. So it's going to automatically change that for me. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the calendar now. So I can obviously take any tasks and drag them over onto my calendar, or I can just click in a time slot. One moment, please. Okay, so I can drag a task over here to create calendar appointment, or I can just click in whatever time slot I want. So let's say at noon today, I just click on that, and then I can just type in whatever it happens to be. So let's say, all right, that's going to be for lunch. Go ahead and type that in, and then I can just hit save here, or I can hit this more button. So saving just saves it, but what the more button does, if I click on that, that opens up my details page. So this is going to be basically the same details that we had for a task. This is just referring to the appointment. So I've got, what the appointment is, my date and time. I can set that up as repeating. I can add a location to this. I can add a category, which is how you color code your calendar. And this list here is customizable. So you can customize what your categories are and the color that they're going to be. And I'll show you that in just a second. Then we have a couple of these things. So we have like status, whether it's canceled or confirmed or what have you. And then type. This is a customizable list. Both of these are primarily used for reporting purposes. So you could like run a report and say, okay, show me all of the appointments from last month that had a status of canceled. So you can see like how many appointments were canceled or what have you. Like I said, these are primarily just things that you can add on to your appointments to report upon. Most people don't really use it, but that's what they're there for. Once again, I can set up a reminder. The reminders on appointments are a little bit different. This just goes for time before your appointment. So if I want that to be 10 minutes or 10 hours, or I could have this, come down here to 1 hour before the appointment, I want to get a reminder. You can just set that up as you see fit. And then once again, we have a details. So I can put in any notes, any details there. I have different guests. So this is who is on this appointment. So I can invite multiple people if you're in a multi-user account. So if I'm having a meeting with, want to schedule a meeting with one of my coworkers, I could just, add them here. And once again, I have this related field. This is where I could connect it to a contact or something like that. So to change, once again, to change any of my colors, I can just click on the appointment and then just choose my category. Okay, let me show you guys where you can set up and customize those categories so you can customize, those colors. And that's going to be under the account tab here. So under my account tab, I've got the setup option. And this is going to be where you have a lot of settings and customizations. So I want to find the calendar section. For me, I have to scroll down. For some of you, it might be the very first section. It just depends on what edition of the platform you're in. But I find calendar. And then this third option here, I have appointment category. So I click into that, and then I can just add these categories. So I just put in the name of the category, and then over on the right-hand side, I just choose whatever color I would like for that. Now you'll notice there's both a key and a display name, and those are both required fields. The key is used for reporting purposes. Some people like to have like specific acronyms. The display name is what you actually see when you're in here in the platform. It's what name displays. So just to cut down on confusion, I recommend just leaving these two things as the same. So we can go ahead and add in whatever categories we want. Once we've done that, make sure you hit submit. Once it's been submitted, it'll add more blank lines so you can keep adding more categories. And then once they're saved, I can just then choose from it at any point in time here on my calendar. Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk about here on the home page is going to be the notes section. So this little, blue sticky note icon, this is going to be our daily notes. And this is a great place just to kind of jot down general notes for things that are going on throughout the day. So I can just click this plus sign right here, and then I can add any notes. So I can just kind of type in whatever notes that I want. This is great for just kind of general journaling purposes. But if you're taking notes that have to do with a specific individual, it's best to take those notes under that person's contact record. That way it's connected to that person. This is just kind of general journaling, so I can just kind of have any of these notes. Over here on the left, I can view notes by different days, and then there's also a search function as well. So I could just search by keyword for any of those notes. So I can search the word note, and then it will show me all of the notes that have that word in it, or I could look at, I could look at, any keywords. One kind of nice thing about these different notes is I can highlight part of it and just turn it into a task. So, maybe I'm jotting down some notes, I'm just kind of doing some journaling here, and I'm looking back at it later, and I realize, okay, well, so I was running low on milk and I need to go to the store. So I can just, highlight this part, say go to the store, and then I can just right click on that and say, okay, I want to make this a task. So then I can just create it as a task. So it goes on my task list. That way I don't have to go in and type that task. So that's where you can just kind of do that general journaling. Like I said, if you're taking notes about a specific interaction that you had with an individual, it's best to take those notes under the contact section. Okay, so we are going to talk about contacts next. Before I move on, though, I did want to pause briefly and see if anyone has any questions about anything that we've gone over here on the homepage. Okay. Yeah, so I had a question asking, where do you go to get to that note section? That's this little blue sticky note down here at the bottom center of the screen. All right, moving on. Let's talk about contacts. So contacts are pretty straightforward. We're all pretty used to contacts. We all have them on, we all have them on our phones and emails and what have you. So I've got my contacts. It defaults to list them alphabetically by last name. So that's what it defaults to. If you have a lot of contacts, I can skip to a specific number or a specific letter of the name right there. If I want to create a new contact, I can just come up here to create new. And then I can just click into any of these contacts to get, a little bit more information about them. So this is just kind of my contacts list. It has kind of the basic information. But if I click into that contact record, so I just click on their name, it will take me to that person's contact and have a lot more information. There is also a search function that I can do. So up here at the top right in this magnifying glass, I can search the platform, and this is a universal search. So this will search a number of different entities, and it's pretty standard search. So if I want to search for a specific person, start to type in their name, and then it comes up with all these different results. Now you'll notice some of these have different symbols next to them. So anything that has this little like person or silhouette symbol, that means it's a contact, person for contact. This $ symbol means it's an opportunity. Opportunities is another little more advanced feature. It's for tracking your sales. That's why it's a $. Once again, that's one of the business features. This one has like a little calendar symbol. That means that this is an appointment. And then with this little check mark symbol, that means it is associated to a task. So if I search something and I want to go to that person's contact record, I just click on the one that has the contact symbol next to it. So that search is pretty handy, and that search can be done from any page. So if I'm here on the home page, and let's say I get a call from one of my contacts, and I'm like, oh, let me pull it up so I can take some notes while I'm on the phone. I can just go into search, pull it up here, and then I have their contact record. So in this contact record, it has some pretty basic, information for them as far as phone number, email, addresses, things like that. And then down the bottom, I have this notes section. So here's where I can track notes about different interactions that I had with this person. So I can say, I'll talk to Eric. We discussed new accounts. So I can go ahead and type in that note, add it on, and it will show me here what the note is, the date that it was created, who created it. I can also track my interactions with this person from this page. So you'll notice some of these have like different appointments and tasks that are associated to it. So that's what we did when we related that to a contact. It shows up here in their notes section. I can also manage my actions or follow-up from this page. So let's say I'm talking to Eric, we talked about new accounts. But maybe Eric said like, hey, I'm super busy. Can you give me a call next Monday? I can say no problem. So I just go to this action button and I click on it. It says, okay, what action do I want to take with this person? And I say, I'm going to create myself a task so I don't forget to do this. So I click create task. And then I just go through and enter in that information for that task. So I can say, call Eric. I can, change any of these. I can give it a priority. And then here's where I want to change the date. So if you said, hey, give me a call on Monday, I'm going to say no problem. So the due date for this is going to be on Monday. So I just choose the date there. I can associate it to a list. This is going to be under professional. And then I can put in any details. So we talked new accounts. He was busy, wanted a call back. So I can give myself notes so I don't forget it. And then I can save that. Once that's all saved, it'll show up here in my history section. And it's automatically going to show up on my task list for that day. So let's pretend it's Monday and I log into the account and I'm taking a look at my task list and seeing what I have to do. I've got this task right here. It says call Eric. It's got this little, contact card symbol, meaning it's connected to a contact. So I can click on that and it has some of their information like their phone number and name. But if I forgot, I was like, who is Eric and why the heck am I supposed to call him? Well, I can just, click on the name. It's linked to this person's contact. It'll just take me right back there and I can go through and review my notes. So that's a very useful way of managing your interactions with contacts. You can, take notes and then also schedule follow-up with them to make sure, nothing's going to slip through the cracks. Okay, so there's a couple other sections that I'm just going to quickly, briefly touch on. So most of these here, like leads, opportunities, marketing, projects, those are all a little bit more advanced features. Those are all only available in the business edition. If you do have any questions about any of those, more advanced business features, just let me know and I'd be happy to answer those for you. But I did want to talk about the calendar and task section here. So this calendar tab, this is basically just a larger version of the calendar that you have on your homepage. This is really more useful in a multi-user account because it allows me to view other users' calendars. So I can click on user and then I can choose between the different users and see their calendars. So I can know like if they're busy at a certain time, if I can schedule something for them, I can check that there. If you're just a single user, this is just something for you personally to keep yourself organized. It's basically just a bigger version of the calendar that you have on your homepage. There's really not much of a difference. Next, we have the task tab here. And this task tab is going to be all of your tasks. This is generally for more of like your analytics as opposed to managing your actions. So this will contain all of your tasks. And then I have a number of filters up here at the top right that I can play with. So I can, filter by user. I could filter by those different lists that I had created. I could filter anything due today or within the next week or anything that's overdue. I can also filter by open or closed. So open means it's an active task. It has not been completed. Closed tasks are any tasks that you have marked as completed. So even when you complete something, it's still going to be in the system in case you need to go back and find it. So that's going to be for closed tasks. Now, if you delete a task, so like let's say I'm going to open this up, and instead of saying this is completed, I want to delete this, just completely delete it. Then it gets deleted out of the system, and it will no longer be in that task tab. So like I said, this task tab is generally more for analytics as opposed to managing your actions. This is kind of a list of all of your tasks, and then you can play with those filters. And then lastly, we have the account tab. So this setup is, like I said, where you have a lot of settings and customizations. So I can come in here and I can customize or change a lot of things. As you can see, PlanPlus is a pretty robust program and it can do a lot of stuff. So here's where I can change some of those settings. Obviously, I don't have time to go through each one of these. But if you do have questions about settings, please feel free to let me know or reach out to our support and they should be able to answer those for you. And then the last thing I wanted to show you is the recycle bin. So under the account tab here, I've got recycle bin. And this is where your deleted items go. So even if I delete a task or like a calendar appointment or something like that, I can come in here and view any of those deleted items, and then I can undelete them if I wanted to bring them back. Your recycle bin does empty after a certain amount of time. I believe it's after, if an item has been in the recycle bin for, I believe, 2 years, then it will be removed. So if you delete something and you don't undelete it within 2 years, you will lose it forever. But usually that's not an issue that people run into. So. All right. So that covers the information I wanted to go over today here in the new user webinar. I know we talked about a lot of stuff. But the main takeaways here is most of the time of the platform you're going to be spending here on the home page, and your calendar. This is where you're managing your time. And then your task list, this is where you're managing your actions. I had a question coming in asking if the stuff from the recycle bin can be deleted manually before 2 years. Not by you, but we can. So that's something we have to do on our end. I mean, all the data that you put into the platform is all owned by you, so you can do whatever you want with it. So if you want us to get rid of everything, we can do that. You just have to let us know, because we don't give customers access to do that, because we don't want people to accidentally delete things they may need. All right. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. I hope you all have a great day. Unfortunately, I do have to run and jump off to another appointment I have in just a moment here. But if you have any other questions, please feel free to either email myself or support. Thank you and have a great day.